we know that people are just joining in. So as members are joining in, let's do some housekeeping issues quickly. Number one, this webinar will be presented in both Kiswahili and English. In that regard, would want you to choose an interpretation window because that will help you to listen to the language of your choice. Therefore, you can click on the globe icon that is labeled interpretation at the bottom of your screen and choose the language of your preference. And if you're joining via a phone, click on the three dots labeled more at your right-hand side at the bottom of your screen and choose the language of interpretation. And as we continue, I want to also announce that there shall be an opportunity to receive your comments, your questions, and inspirations in this webinar. Therefore, you can use the question and answer, the Q&A icon, to post in your questions to the speakers. And in case you want to use the chat window, that will also be in order. As we want to start now, knowing that we are now a group of us who have joined in, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to begin by saying you are very, very welcome to this webinar entitled Scaling Up Sustainable Food Systems Through Agroecology in Tanzania. This webinar this afternoon or this morning, depending wherever you are, is being hosted by Farm Radio International. Farm Radio International is the only nonprofit on the globe that uses the power of radio integrated with other ICTs to meet the information needs of small-scale farmers in sub-Saharan Africa. My name is Rex Chapota. I am your host for the day in this webinar. I also want to encourage you to introduce yourself to us. And you can do the same using the chat window. In the chat window, write your name, write your organization, even if you can, your position and your contact email, so that this conversation continues beyond this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very interesting that this webinar is coming soon after the COP27 has just finished in Egypt, which was dubbed the African COP. One interesting thing in the COP27, we saw for the first time that food systems took a center stage. Therefore, it is befitting today that we are talking about sustainable food systems. And as a reminder for us to start at the same page, let us remember that when we talk about sustainable food systems, we are looking at a food system that delivers food security and nutrition for all people in such a way that the economic, social, and environmental fundamentals to generate that food security and nutrition are adhered for future generations. Therefore, today, we have got an interesting conversation based on the work that Farm Radio International is doing in 5 regions of Tanzania in collaboration with partners such as the Biovision Africa Trust, the Mkulima Mbunifu, the Sustainable Agriculture Trust, the Islands of Peace, the Eco Life Impact Center, and indeed our distinguished radio stations on the ground, including local government partners. You may be asking as we start, why are we here today? We are here today to discuss on how we can take to scale sustainable food systems, more specifically, agroecology in Tanzania. Therefore, we hope that together we can discuss and find ways to recommend for investments in agroecology moving forward. Therefore, without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased now to welcome Dr. Nicholas Kuboja, who is the chairperson of Farm Radio Tanzania Advisory Board. Dr. Kuboja is joining us all the way from Dodoma, Tanzania, where he does his work with the Tanzania Agricultural Research Institute, leading the work on economics and markets in the research agenda. Allow me to welcome Dr. Kuboja, to welcome all of us to this webinar. Dr. Kuboja, please.
Thank you, Rexy, for well introduction of the webinar today. As Lex has introduced me, I'm Dr. Nicholas Kuboja, working with Tanzania Agricultural Research Institute, based at the headquarters office in Dodoma. I'm also serving as a chairperson of the Tanzania Advisory Board of Farm Radio International. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. The guest of honor, Dr. Honeskes, who is the Director of Food Security at the Ministry of Agriculture. The acting country representative of Farm Radio International, Mr. Rexy Chapota, all guest speakers of today's webinar. Collaborating partners, just to mention the names: Islands of Peace, Tanzania Agriculture Organic Movement, Mkulima Mbunifu, Biovision Africa Trust, Biovision International and Sustainable Agriculture Trust. Invited participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor today to take this opportunity to welcome you to this special webinar, which will be talking about the scaling our sustainable food system through agroecology. In this case, agroecology is taken as the heart of the sustainable food system. That means without agroecology, you cannot achieve the sustainable food system in our countries. And that takes us in a bad situation under the earth. So no way out, we will put aside the agroecology in the agenda of sustainable food security. I know the guest of honor, the Dr. Case, is more conversant on the food security and probably even the nutrition as being a director for food security. And I understand that we will talk much about food security and how this can be achieved through the agroecology. Being a chair of the Farm Radio International Tanzania, I would like to highlight some few things about Farm Radio International in Tanzania. Much has been said by Rex, but let me just say a few things of what Farm Radio International has been doing in Tanzania, especially for the 3 years. Because of time, also, I would like to single out one of the projects which have been implemented by Farm Radio International for the 3 years. This is interactive radio program for ecological sustainable agricultural practices. During its implementation, Farm Radio International has achieved a number of things through its implementation, using the radio, mobile, and also information communication technologies. Farm Radio International Tanzania has achieved even to reach about 47,000 farmers in the area where the projects have been implemented. And this has been in Kilimanjaro region, Manyara, Arusha, Dodoma and Singida. You can see 47,000 farmers have accessed a number of informations through the Uliza system, which has been running by Farm Radio International. And not only that, but it has also managed to form forum at regional levels where different stakeholders are coming together to share some knowledge about agroecologies and how ecologies can be implemented. Elements of agroecologies, as you know, the 10 elements of agroecology have been housed in this kind of platform. Also, a number of content materials have been delivered after being developed, delivered to communities, especially in the marginal communities, and they have accessed this one. And we are realizing a number of impact is in the livelihood of people in the communities, where to some extent, using the traditional kind of communications, it has been difficult to reach that kind of crucial information. My role today is to welcome all of you today, to be a good participant in this webinar, to share and listen. And at the end of the day, we'll have the direction of how agroecology can be taken on board to ensure we have sustainable food system in our communities. It is not my intention to take most of the time but I was moved to say something about what Farm Value International has been doing in Tanzania, and to give some insight into what I'm expecting and all of us are expecting from this webinar. Therefore, feel free to participate and engage within the webinar, even after this webinar is finished. I understand through this webinar session, we will have sharing a number of communication. We know each other's, and we know how we can communicate. With those few remarks, I am welcoming you all to participate fully and share some experiences, what you have been doing and what you think should be done as you are thinking about scaling up sustainable food security through agroecology. Thank you very much. In Swahili we say asanteni, and you are warmly welcome to participate. Karibuni sana, and thank you. Back to Rex.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kuboja. And today we can go with a quote to say that agroecology is at the heart of sustainable food systems. We want to continue with our lineup today. If you are just joining us, make sure you tell us your name and your organization in the chat window. And in case you want to listen in Kiswahili, go down, choose an interpretation window so that you are listening in the language of your preference. I can see that we have got civil society actors, public sector, donor agencies, farmers, private sector, who have all joined in this webinar. Please, if you have got any questions or comments, put them in the Q&A section, or you can also write them in the chat window. I want now to invite our guest of honor for this event. Our guest of honor is Dr. Honest Kese. Dr. Kese is the Director of Food Security in the Ministry of Agriculture in Tanzania. He has been a leading voice during the UN Food System Summit in 2021, and I know he's very ready to share with us Tanzania's government stand on issues of sustainable food systems. Before Dr. Kese comes, let me remind all of us here, agriculture is the hallmark of the Tanzanian economy and food systems. Agriculture is the main source of food and livelihoods, employing about 65% of the population, with a contribution to GDP of 28% and 51% for Tanzania mainland and Zanzibar, respectively. The agricultural sector contributes about 30% of the total export earnings and supplies. Therefore, as we discussed today, this is a critical matter to keep at the bottom of our hearts. With this introduction, let me invite Dr. Kese, all the way from Dodoma, from the Ministry of Agriculture, which is at the heart of food systems, to address us and open this function. Dr. Kese, this is your time. Thank you.
Sorry, I can't hear Dr. Casey.
Dr. Casey, please unmute. It's your time. We can't hear you, Dr. Casey. Yes, now you're coming through.
Dr. Kessie, you might have to click the up arrow that's beside your mute button and then make sure that the right microphone and speaker are selected.
I see it's still muted.
Okay, I think there is a small problem from Dr. Casey. And Dr. Casey, whenever you are ready, you let us know in the chat window, and I'll give you a chance to speak and really officially open this webinar. In the interest of time, I want us to proceed. At this moment in time, we have got a keynote presentation that will be delivered by Farm Radio International Senior Program Officer for East and Southern Africa, who want to share with us the experiences of implementing programs in agroecology and also showcasing to us the case of scale in this sustainable food systems agenda. And this is none other than Miss Catherine Mlosabanda, who is speaking to us today from Lilongwe, Malawi. Catherine, share us your keynote presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. May I confirm that you are able to hear me?
Loud and clear, thank you.
All right.
Yes, we can hear you, Catherine.
All right, thank you. So today I would like to share with you the role of interactive radio as a key communication pathway towards scale of sustainable food systems. And indeed, I'll be speaking on the role of radio based on an example which one of our previous speakers, Dr. Kobo, already alluded to, a project that we are implementing in Tanzania on ecologically sustainable agricultural practices. Next. So this project, which is titled Interactive Radio for Ecologically Sustainable Agricultural Practices, in brief, IRESAP, is, as Dr. Kuboja said, being implemented in the northern and central zones of Tanzania, specifically Arusha, Kilimanjaro, Manyara, Dodoma, and Singida. This project is a 3-year project. It started in January 2021 and will be ending in December 2023. It's being funded by Biovision Foundation, but we also have other key partners with whom we have been working closely within Tanzania, which is the Mkulima Mbunifu in Tanzania, Biovision Africa Trust, which has their office domiciled in Kenya, the Department of Extension under the Ministry of Agriculture, indeed TARI, where Dr. Kuboja comes from, and ECO East Africa. So we have been working collaboratively with these partners throughout the time that we have been implementing the project. Next. The purpose of the project was to be able to see increased application at smallholder level and adoption of ecologically sustainable agricultural practices by women, men, and youth farmers using interactive radio. You may ask why radio? I may be preaching to the already converted, but radio is one of the key extension pathways that is readily available at farmer level. And as Farm Radio International, much as we have championed radio, one of the key times that showed us the importance of radio in extension has been the pandemic, where because of restrictions in meeting with different people, radio became a model or a communication channel of choice to reach out to smallholder farmers with different messages. So in our modeling, we normally use radio as a key communication channel, of course, enhanced by other ICTs and other media, so that we are able to ensure that we are closing the communication loop, much as we are sending out information, that we should be able to also get feedback from the farmers through the different enhancers like ICTs, that is mobile phones, and the like, so that farmers are also able to send in their feedback. We had quite three outcomes. Firstly, increased use of interactive radio among radio broadcasters, so increased use of interactive radio programming approaches on ecologically sustainable agricultural practices. Our second outcome was strengthened interactive opportunities for smallholder farmers to actively engage in the interactive radio programming on ecologically sustainable agricultural practices. And then lastly, increased access to information. So we didn't want to just give out information on agroecology and different agricultural practices, but we also wanted to create opportunities for farmers to be able to interact with that content and provide their feedback, so that we enter into an adaptive learning process, so that we're able to see how indeed agroecology is being rolled out, what are the key lessons, and how we can be able to ensure that farmers are able to sustainably apply these practices. I must say that through the course of implementation, one thing that we noticed was how strong communications and advocacy was coming out. This is because agroecology, in the context of climate change and also sustainable food systems, is one of the innovations that does need a lot of collaborative learning. And one key role that Farm Radio International has been able to play is mobilizing partners so that we're able to engage in discourse on the application of agroecology at farmer level. That birthed a fourth outcome, which we have started to craft, especially as we are exiting year 2, related to communications and advocacy, which this webinar also falls under. And I'll speak a bit more to it as we go along. I was really happy in the comments. I saw one person inviting stakeholders in Tanzania to ACAF, which Farm Radio is very involved in. Next. So the things that we have been able to do, among others, are to engage and mentor 5 radio stations within the regions that we are working in to air information on ecologically sustainable practices. I must say that we do have 2 major models that we use. One where we work actively with the radio station to mentor them not only on the content but also on quality radio programming, which does include a lot on gender transformative approaches to radio programming, as well as interactivity, ensuring that the audience is involved not only at content generation but also during airing, and they're able to give feedback, and we support broadcasters to be able to roll out that process. But also one of the key things that we do mentor our broadcasters in is how to make sure that the radio programs are entertaining and they give out the information that is necessary. Beyond this, we have been developing resources on agroecology in partnership with our different partners, which we are sharing to our network of radio stations, not only within Tanzania, but also within the region. In Tanzania, we have quite a lot of partner radio stations who we share resources with. So in the bid of within FRI looking at sustainability and scale of radio programming on ecologically sustainable agricultural practices, we outlined those two key methodologies, engaging 5 radio stations closely, but also sharing resources, broadcaster resources with a wider range within Tanzania and within the region. Our target was to reach 5 million smallholder farmers with information on ecologically sustainable agricultural practices. And I'll talk about how we used our interactive platforms to also ensure that smallholder farmers are interacting with our content. One of the key pillars of the project, which birthed outcome for, as I mentioned, was partnerships. We partnered with local stakeholders within the agroecology space to generate content. So we have been working with what we call content advisory panels, who are responsible for assisting with generating the content. I must say here that farmers and extension workers are key in driving the agenda on what content that we want to broadcast, especially, as I said, because we are looking more at adaptive learning. We want to learn what works and what we can be able to scale up based on the different regions that we are working in. We also have been working with Mkulima Mbunifu, who took on the print media side of promotion of agroecology. They have been producing a magazine that covers a lot of content on agroecology, and normally we find that in most cases when we visit farmers, they're able to say, we do indeed listen to radio, but we also have this print magazine that helps to remind us, and that we are also able to share with our friends so that they also know about agroecology and the different steps that they can take to practice A or to practice B. Beyond that, our partnership with local stakeholders, most of whom are in our panelists and are also in the group of participants, is to engage in discussion and discourse on the application of agroecology at farmer level. And indeed, I'll share in the next slide what has been coming out from the field. But let me also mention that we have so far aired 230 interactive radio episodes. Our target is to air 320 over 3 years. We've also, in the bid to ensure that we are able to also cater to those who might not necessarily have access to radio, we've been able to work with government to establish community listener groups, of which we have 80. And we have been using our interactive platform, which we call Uliza, which in Swahili is to ask, to allow smallholder farmers to send in questions which are responded to by our different partners, that are responded to by our different partners. So far, we have been able to garner 47,000 interactions through Uliza. Next. I have an example here of Madam Kalonga from Singida district, who has been an ardent listener of the radio programs and also has a phone and has been able to use the Uliza number. I should say that the Uliza number is simple to use because what we want to do is not to belabor those who might struggle to read or write, but we also use interactive voice response. So at the end of each radio episode, we can have a question for debate that a smallholder farmer can say if they agree, they'll just press a 1, or if they disagree, they press 2, so they can be able to listen to listen through Uliza on the interactive voice response. So here she had mentioned that the key things that she has learned is the use of organic fertilizers such as compost manure, as well as the use of local seeds. She also was learning about chicken vaccinations, which was interesting, and she also gets to record her questions that she leaves for response. Next. The key observations that are coming out, firstly, are how important media is in raising awareness on agroecology to public policymakers as well as other partners. Another key issue has been the importance of partnerships. One thing that was noted in the first year of implementation was the contradictory and conflicting nature of messages that were riffed at smallholder level. This project has given us an opportunity to partner through the Arusha Collaboration for Agroecology Forum to be able to discuss such issues and to harmonize messages in a way. One of the key important highlights has also been the use of multiple communication pathways. As I mentioned, that Mkulima Mbunifu has been using print media, but we also have been working a lot with extension workers and other NGOs, other partners like IDP, who indeed have extension and field workers who are able to work with the farmers so that they're able to mount demonstrations and practice whatever they're hearing on air in person. One of the other key observations that we have made indeed is that agroecology cannot exist in a vacuum. In order to make a transition to more sustainable food systems, there is need to pay attention to the wider context within which agroecology would be practiced and would be, and the wider context that can help to enable more farmers to practice agroecology. And this brings in the need for more organized and structured supply chains. Issues like local seeds, are they readily available? Organic fertilizers, how can we be able to make sure that farmers have access to these things, or they are able to generate these products? So that is one of the key aspects that has been coming out even from farmers during our radio programs about the need for more structured supply chains. Another issue is the uncertain market linkages. One key should I say, complaint or concern that comes out not only in Tanzania but in the region, in the discourse of agroecology from farmers, is that at times it's hard for consumers to differentiate organic produce from the one that has been produced conventionally with pesticides and fertilizers. In so doing, it's really hard at times to be able to properly market organic produce as it is and attach to it the value that it deserves in comparison to products that would be produced conventionally. Thus, there is need for more consumer awareness on the benefits of consuming safe foods, as well as how to be able to better identify or better package organically produced food. Next. As we are looking at scale, I think there are two ways that we can be able to look at it. Firstly, geographic scale. So making sure that horizontally we have more farmers practicing agroecology, more people buying organically produced food. But we are also looking at being able to have more organizations promoting agroecology as one that would fit under horizontal scale, but would also, be one of the ways of institutionalizing or making sure that we are promoting the agroecology agenda as much as possible. And the other key issues that we also look at in as far as exploring scale is concerned is ensuring that policy and regulatory frameworks are strengthened regarding agroecology, regarding organic food, as well as better and more structured supply chains. We are hoping that when we look at the other institutional arrangements around agroecology, we can be able to indeed, or these others can also be able to push farmers or to help farmers being able to practice agroecology over a wider scale. Let me, I'm sorry if you can go to the next slide. Yeah, I would like to draw your attention. Of course, this does look at e-agriculture, which includes radio, but also can be able to apply to the other communication methodologies that we use. But mainly, I would like to draw your attention to the third column on e-agricultural solutions, as I think one of the key messages is that agroecology cannot exist in a vacuum. We do need to pay attention to the wider context and to partner to make sure that the ecosystem, the enabling environment does really come together to set agroecology up for a success. And in as far as the communication pathways are concerned, they are beyond being able to give production information or ecologically sustainable agricultural practices. Farmers are looking for market information. How can they be able to market their produce and be able to have their capacity built or receive information regarding that? And that, you would agree with me that it requires a slightly different set of actors who can be able to provide that type of specialized capacity building. Beyond that, climate and disease information. So this is beyond okay, practice conservation agriculture or apply compost manure. What about when a 1 acre farm has been attacked by a disease? How can they be able to use integrated pest management to manage that problem so that they're able to benefit, or they're still able to yield something at the end of the day? Beyond that, working with extension is still critical to be able to make sure that they have someone on call that they can be able to reach out to and who can be able to work with them so that they're able to follow in practice how they are supposed to apply the different practices. Links between farmers, buyers, and suppliers. That is another key thing that we might need to also pay attention to, and that communication can be able to assist to provide those linkages beyond others, like being able to have access to credit. And we believe that when we look at those different components, you would find that we indeed would need quite a lot in the enabling environment for us to be able to take agroecology to scale in a sustainable manner. Yeah, next. Yeah, so there are quite a lot of aspects that we envision partnerships, we envision working with different stakeholders in as far as taking agroecology to scale in Tanzania within the East Africa region is concerned. But I just want to point out a number of key issues that we have identified from our experiences in implementing the ERESA project. One of which is indeed partnerships and building linkages with different partners. Indeed, there is need through the ACAF. We have seen the importance of working collaboratively in order to make sure that we have one voice in as far as the practices that we are promoting, but also that we're able to know who is doing what, so that we know who we can be able to approach for support in a specific aspect. I would also like to highlight capacity building, and this is at 2 levels. At community level, indeed, radio and extension can be able to help with in capacity building. But institutionally, there's also need for champion organizations who are indeed promoting the agroecology agenda and who are indeed being there so that they're able to spread the message widely. Policy engagement, we have noticed that there is indeed also need to be able to engage with our policymakers so that we're able to make adjustments where necessary. While this does take time, we believe that through our experiences of implementation, we can be able to influence the way things are done at policy level, or the way some other things would be approached. Indeed, extension services is very key. We do have partners who perhaps have frontline officers who are trained, who can be able to join the agroecology movement, to take up the principles and support farmers as well as various organizations as much as possible. But especially research and learning, I've seen here that we have representatives that are implementing an agroecology research project in Tanzania. Those are partners that we actually do need. Universities as well, we have a lot of students who we know can be able to, draw out project titles and research from the way we are implementing, and also be able to answer questions that we are failing to answer through academia. So those are also opportunities for partnership. And we added learning here because we are not looking at research for the just for the sake of it, but research that will later on feed into the ecosystem that we are working in, that will help to inform our different practices at farmer level, and also institutionally how we are implementing and how we are collaborating. And lastly, adaptive learning as much as possible, which is indeed very possible and is happening through our collaborations, through our meetings, through our partnerships, that together we are, as the Arusha Collaborate Forum, we have been able to learn, but we would also like to be able to partner with others so that we're able to learn how we can be able to best implement agroecology, and what practices we can be able to scale up to work in specific communities as compared to others. Next. Yeah, so lastly, we would like to call upon stakeholders, including funding agencies, to invest in strengthening extension as well as service provision in the agroecology space. As I said, and I will continue to mention that agroecology cannot be able to exist in a vacuum. We do need to pay attention to the various structural aspects that can be able to make agroecology a success. But indeed, we would also want to see more farmers practicing. So we would like, and we are ready to partner with different organizations and funding agencies to deploy innovative communication tools so that we're able to scale up agroecology in Tanzania and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Catherine for a great presentation. Agroecology cannot be practiced in a vacuum. If you're looking for a quote today, you can take that to the bank. Agroecology cannot be practiced in a vacuum. We need all players, partners to come together with a good enabling policy environment for us to take agroecology to scale in the sustainable food systems agenda. Wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Catherine. Just to continue to announce that if you're just coming in, please choose a window of your choice, either in Kiswahili or English. You can also introduce yourself in the chat window. Let us know your name and your organization, because we want to continue this conversation. Actually, one member has said they never knew there is work happening like this. So this is indeed a beginning of a greater journey together as stakeholders. If you have got a question, post it in the Q&A section. Already 3 or 4 questions are coming in, and we want more questions to come through. And also note that we should be able to share the recordings of this webinar to you so that you can share with others, but also continue in this engagement. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, after hearing about the communication pathways towards scale of agroecology, we want to hear from a guest of honor, Dr. Kese, in terms of the Tanzanian government position. What is government thinking in Tanzania about agroecology as part of the sustainable food systems agenda? Where are we? Where do we want to go from here? Let me now have the pleasure and honor to invite Dr. Kese to speak to us right now. Dr. Kese, please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. We can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, good evening, depending from where you're connecting from. Yes, my name is Kes Honest from the Ministry of Agriculture, and I'm currently the Director for National Food Security and also the National Food Systems Convener. And on behalf of the Permanent Secretary, the Ministry of Agriculture, we thank Farm Radio for convening us to discuss and share experiences on scaling up sustainable food systems through agroecology. Sustainable food systems is the core of whatever we are doing as a ministry. For the food systems to be sustainable, there is a number of things that has to be done, both by the government, the private sector, civil society, and our dear farmers. So at the ministry level, we have in place a number of documents in terms of policies, counting from our agriculture sector development plan, phase 2. We have our agriculture policy, our 2013. We have also our national environment policy, which has been launched recently of 2021. And now to implement these policies, we have come up with a number of strategies and action plans. And currently we are working on developing a national agroecology or a national ecological organic agriculture strategy, which is now almost halfway. And in the process of developing this tool, which will guide us, coordinate us, and tell us who is where, doing what, to what extent, and how much is being invested, and the expected outcome. So I'm calling you as partners in this process to keep on assisting and helping in finalizing this document. We understand that everyone or most of us are doing agroecology without having something which is putting us together. I also like to call on all partners that and inform all partners that the government, through national determined contribution, has put commitment to the United Nations framework for Convention for Climate Change. And one of these commitments is that agroecology is part of the commitments. And the government has to deliver on those commitments. So the environment is good for every one of us, for all players to contribute. The recently finished COP27 was termed a COP for action. And our agroecology dialogue today, we should focus on action. Action that will deliver, action that will give us output, putting our farmers the central pivot of transformation. Through the food systems, recognizing agroecology approaches as a tool for transforming the food systems, Tanzania, the government of Tanzania joined the Agroecology Coalition that was formed during the course of the food systems. And we are still working with them and also sharing our experiences and learning from others on how to implement, on how to finance, and on how to sustain the agroecology practices. Agroecology, as it has been said, needs investment. And this investment should go directly to our farmers, the ones who are producing, the ones who are at the center, the ones who are at the bottom of everything we think, everything we plant, and they are the ones who can change and transform the whole system. So I'm calling upon you all to look on the best way, best models that we can incentivize our farmers to adopt the practices, the way we can help the farmers to use our production resources efficiently, let it be water which is available, the agronomic practices that they have to do, and help them with tools that will make them appreciate the value of agroecology practices. My colleagues, we all know that plants need water and not rains. Let's see how we can help our farmers to put in place mechanisms to efficiently use the scarce resource that we have. We can all observe what is happening now. The climate change and the variabilities are real. Now we are experiencing as a country, we have high inflation in food commodities. And this is because the last season we didn't harvest well and the rains were not well distributed. But had we had a mechanism to harvest the little rain we had, then run out supplementary irrigation, we could have been in a better situation right now. Had we had a mechanism to conserve the water, or using the seeds which are adaptive to low water usage, then it could have been in a different situation right now. So I'm calling on you to focus on the farmers as the transformers of, or as implementers of our food systems. Sustainability will give us a competitive edge in having a resilient food system, a food system that will be able to absorb shocks, let them be climatic shocks or any other shocks that comes around. That will make food available and also nutritious food available to all at affordable prices. So having said this, I will also want to call upon action the following. As stakeholders, we need to have a clarity of information regarding agroecology farming practices, that from the farmers to the policymakers will understand exactly what does that mean to avoid different theories, different thinking lines that are coming out. We also have to have a communication channel, communication strategy that will help us to attain that. I'm also calling on you all to support, to have a strategy that will coordinate us and direct us. And that will set a benchmark that at the end of the day, we can evaluate ourselves and see where to put more efforts or to change our strategies. With these few remarks, I declare that our webinar has been officially opened. Thank you very much, colleagues, for your time, and looking forward to have concrete action points for moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Honest Kese from the Ministry of Agriculture. Dr. Kese has emphasized that agroecology is a tool for transformation of food systems. He has also reminded us that let's remember that farmers are at the center of agroecology, and all of us need to make sure we partner together to meet the needs of smallholder farmers in the sustainable food systems agenda. Dr. Kese has also emphasized on the need to invest in agroecology as one of the key pathways towards sustainable food systems and adaptation to climate change. No wonder he has emphasized that the government of Tanzania has joined the Agroecology Coalition, which took place during the COP27. So this shows to us that we need to pursue this agenda and scale it up, but also join forces with government to support in the upcoming strategy that will bring coordination of all actors in agroecology. Thank you so much, Dr. Kese, for those wonderful remarks and opening this webinar officially. Questions are already coming through in the Q&A section, and we shall be handling those at the end of this webinar. Since we started late, we'd like to encourage you to still be with us up until the end of the hour, so that we can have enough time to discuss the questions that are coming through. There are questions which are as simple and as complicated as, what is agroecology? So, ladies and gentlemen, for us to have answers to these questions, we have got a very great panel this afternoon. And our panelists shall help us to look at some of the questions we are already asking on what can we do to scale up agroecology. Therefore, our first panelist this afternoon or this morning, depending wherever you are, is Dr. Mkulima Juma. Dr. Mkulima Juma is the chairperson of the Tanzania Organic Agricultural Movement, but also is a very proud and seasoned farmer coming all the way from Zanzibar. Dr. Mkulima, I would like to start with you today. As the chairperson of the Tanzania Organic Agriculture Movement and a long-time farmer doing pure organic agriculture, what do you think is the importance of agroecology in ensuring sustainable food systems? Dr. Mkulima, please.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thanks to all the participants of this very important webinar. Have been tossing in my mind, and especially when I see the question, what is agroecology? And when we are talking about it as a way for a sustainable food system, I ask myself, where are we coming from? Why are we now talking about scaling in agroecology? And here in Tanzania, we also like to call it agroecology, organic agriculture. What happened to us? Why we want to scale it up? What are we scaling up? These are very important questions because it reflects since the end of World War, since the introduction of a green revolution and all that associated with it, that is a turning point. That is where we turn away from the agriculture that can go with the nature, that can help us sustain production within our own system for our own food security, and also for the sustaining of our soils, and for the sustaining of the production. So something has changed in our lives, and it has happened long time ago. So when we say scaling up, we fall short of saying, let's go back and revisit. And that revisiting is, did we do research in our own way of production long time ago to improve it, to go with the stage? No, we jumped our wagon of a green revolution, which is a mixing up, and we move into industrial agriculture. All the generation of us, ourselves, me inclusive, all the extensionists, all of us, we were told that you cannot do agriculture without external input. It has to be modern to be done that way. So now, let's be honest to the farmers. Let's tell them that we wronged you in telling you that you cannot be producing if you don't go industrial, if you don't do industrial agriculture. So, and when we say that, then we know why it is important, because we realize all these issues that we are talking about, the issues of the climate change, the issues of loss of biodiversity, the issues of losing our soils, all these are associated with the change of our way of farming. When we shifted and start pushing these tractors, monoculture of everything that we are doing, we change the system, Rex, and that is why we have to think carefully to go back. And when we go back, we are, it's like of medicine. We are healing ourselves. We heal both socially, we heal both environmentally, we heal both ecologically. And this is very important at the moment, because greed has been too much within us, and everybody is talking about produce and produce more and produce more. It doesn't care where your production system, what it is causing to the environment.
Thank you, Dr. Mkulima. You can see the passion and the inspiration that it's about sustainability, it's about healing Mother Earth, and it's about us being able to sustain nature, sustain the soils, and sustain indeed our production systems. Thank you so much. And Dr. Mkulima, if I would ask, what do you think is a major challenge affecting scale of agroecology? Because in most cases, there are just few projects here and there, but not full-scale agroecology happening in Tanzania, in Zanzibar, and other parts of Africa. What do you think is a major challenge that is affecting scale of agroecology?
You know, what is affecting, one thing that I will say is a political buy-in. We have heard Dr. Casey talking about the support, but in actuality, it is not there. You don't see in the ministry focusing this. We have been seeing in other countries which are purely conventional. They have a whole ministry which is dealing with agroecology organic. They have a whole department that is looking after what can be done in agroecology. So the challenge is we agree to be shifted from our way of farming without getting a chance ourselves to put in research, because agroecology, organic, all these regenerative, sustainable, all these, they need a lot of research work. There are a lot of science into it. So we shifted from there and moved to the science of the people who are using it as a science for doing their own businesses. So that's the challenge. And the outcry of our civil society all the time is, let's get this political will. Let's see the ministry really upfront. Let's see the ministry going out of its way to say, yes, now we are pushing for this agenda, political statement, like all this political statement that we are hearing. We are still ongoing with the misconceptions. There's so many misconceptions about this thing. Deep down in most of us, people within the system, people, the farmer themselves, the middle-level farmer, deep down in us, we say, are we really going to survive if we go agroecology? Until now, we see how we are losing the fertility of our soil. We still see how we are losing our biodiversity, but we still question something that we have left to practice it for the last 70, 80 years. We are still questioning if it sustains us. We're still not questioning why what we have embarked on, industrial agriculture, why it is not fulfilling us. We still don't realize that within that industrial agriculture, we are just to use it. We are the business, we are the buyer of those chemicals, and people there, they want to keep their business going. While we have an opportunity in agroecology, let's put out our own biopesticide, biofertilizer. Let's focus on it. We want to see affirmative action. And if we have affirmative action, that will remove the misconception, that will say, let's try and see how this goes. And this kind of talking and then goes around and say, but hii mchezo tu hapa, wa jamaa hakuna lolote lile, wanapotezeana muda tu. This will not get us anywhere. We cannot leave this agenda in the hands of a civil society organization alone. The government has to see into it where it is.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The whole issue of political buy-in is very, very critical. And I know Dr. Kese is listening, and all other stakeholders are listening. Talk and talk and talk is cheap. Let's act. Let's see what is real on the ground. That's a message coming very clearly from Dr. Mwatima. Let's go to our second panelist. And our second panelist is...
Not yet.
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, Dr. Mwatima. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, don't worry. Yes, don't worry. I know you're so passionate about this issue, but don't worry, I'll come back to you. So our second panelist is Mr. Ludovic, who is the country director of Islands of Peace. Islands of Peace is an international NGO, but is doing a great work in promoting agroecological practices and regenerative agriculture in northern Tanzania. And want to go into the communities now to say, what is it that indeed Islands of Peace are doing, which they call agroecological practices. Mr. Ludovic, would you want to break it down for us to say, what does it mean on the ground when you talk about agroecological practices or sustainable agricultural practices? Ludovic.
Yeah, thank you, Rex, and good afternoon to all. Yeah, before going to the ground level, I just want to make some clarification that, okay, IDP is supporting food system transformation using agroecological principles. But in our view, agroecological principles apply all along the food system, meaning that when we talk about agroecological transition, we have to look at all the components of the food system, from production to consumption of food, including marketing, processing, sensitization, advocacy. So agroecology is not only agricultural practices on how do we produce our food, but we find agroecological principles in all along the food system. Therefore, we have to work with different target audience, like farmers, of course, but private sector involved in food systems, decision makers, citizens, consumers, and media. So really our understanding is that agroecology cut across the entire food system. Now, when talking about how ILDP is supporting small-scale farmers with agroecological practices, we can have three main blocks. The first one is about diversity, agricultural diversity, meaning how do we combine crops, livestock, and trees in the farming system, with the objective to improve food and nutrition security, income, and to improve also the resilience of small-scale farmers to external shock. So what we want is farmers to see their farm as a system, and how each component of the farm can support each other, meaning how your crop can support your livestock, how your livestock can support your crops, the role that trees play in your farming system by providing food for the household, by providing food for your animal, but also playing a role in fertilizing the soil. So this diversity is really one of the 10 elements of agroecology that we try to apply concretely in the farm with small-scale farmers. So again, when we're talking about diversity, is diversity of crops, so to have many crops on your field, to have livestock and a range of diversity of livestock, and also to have a range of trees that support your farming system. Another practices is focusing on local seeds. You know, in Tanzania, you have about 80% of seeds that are from the farmer managed seed systems. So there is a need to support farmers to revitalize farmer managed seed system, just to make sure that farmers have access to good quality seeds originating from their agroecological zone. So IDP is promoting farmer managed seed system, working with farmers to revitalize these local seeds by collecting local seeds, doing characterization of these local seeds, multiplication of these local seeds, and also to establish a local community seed bank, just to make sure that communities, farmers have access to local seeds. Another component is about soil fertility. Dr. Mkulima talked about it, and this is really an important concern, that we need to improve soil fertility. This soil fertility has decreased over the past years, and there is an emergency to improve soil fertility. And for this, we are implementing different techniques like green manure, cover crops, use of organic fertilizer, intercropping, crop rotation, minimum soil disturbance. So we have a basket of techniques that we implement with farmers to improve soil fertility. The last one is about water conservation techniques. We know that access to water for irrigation is a big concern, and even more and more nowadays. So we also work with farmers to improve their water conservation techniques. It can be rainwater harvesting system, or just small techniques to keep the moisture in the soil.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ludovic. So you have talked about these 4 key areas of diversity, local seeds, the whole issue of soil fertility and water conservation. But how do you see the farmers responding? Do you think this message is very clear at the farmer level and farmers are ready to embrace this way of looking at food systems? What has been your experience at the farmer level?
Yeah, so I will really rely on our experience in Karatu district and in Arusha district. So I don't want to say that it's the same in all Tanzania. So just for us, we are really working with small scale farmers. And these farmers, they are at the crossroads between traditional way of farming and conventional practices. So if this is the right time to support small scale farmers, to avoid them to go to conventional farming. And I must say that most of the farmers we are working with are really in favor of agroecological practices, and they see the relevance of these agroecological practices. You know, farmers are really aware about the negative effect of chemicals on soil or on their health. We don't have to learn, to teach them this issue. They know and they can see and they can observe that all these conventional practices has really bad effect on the environment, but also on health. And for example, when talking also about local seeds, you know, most of the farmers prefer local seeds. For example, they prefer local varieties of maize and beans because they say that it's more nutritious. They prefer the taste of the local maize. So there is already, I can say, a buy-in of small-scale farmers for agroecological practices. You know, agroecological practices are based on traditional farming practices. It's just a way to improve these traditional farming practices. So we don't introduce really new techniques. We try to improve what is existing. So when we have this approach, it's much more easier to convince, let's say, farmer to go for agroecological practices.
Wonderful.
Just I wanted to add, really, if you want farmers to keep their commitment in this agroecological transition process, because we know that agroecological transition process is a long process. So we need to have also quick wins. You know, when we are talking about soil fertility, if you want to improve soil fertility, it will take years. But so we need to offer quick wins to small-scale farmers to keep their commitment in this agroecological transition. So it can be, you know, if you introduce small livestock in the farming system, like chicken, we know that chicken is highly profitable and you can have really profit in a short term. So, but this is really something we all should keep in mind when we start working with farmers on this agroecological transition. We need to offer also quick wins for these farmers to keep their commitment.
Thank you so much, Ludovic. I'll come back to you later. Let's be on mute if you're not speaking. So we have heard from Ludovic, who is saying very clearly that farmers are in favor of agroecological practices because basically we are just improving on their traditional farming methods and they know what really works. So we don't want to speak on behalf of the farmer today. We want to hear from the farmers themselves. We are lucky today and privileged to have one farmer from northern Tanzania in Karatu. And this is Madam Gaudens Lulu. So Madam Gaudens Lulu, we want to give you a chance to share with us what has been your experience in practicing agroecological principles and other practices in your farm. What can you say about the importance of agroecology in your farm, Madam Gaudens?
Asante, kwanza.
Thank you so much. At first, I greet all of you. Shikamoni, it's a greeting for the elders. My name is Pelagia Lulu. There is a lot of importance when you practicing agroecology, because the first you are sure with the food security. Another importance is your health, even not for your own healthy, but even for the livestock which you have in your homestead. So another importance for agroecology, it's you can benefit you, not only you, but even the coming generation. They are eating a healthy food, which is secured. And, but also the environment will be conserved and very friendly for you and for your livestock and even your crops at your surrounding. But also you can use the local seeds because they are very good for the farmer who are low income, because most farmers, they don't have a capacity to buy or purchasing the seeds. If you have your local seed and you keep it well, you will have a sufficient food for your family and even for your neighbors. But also you can increase your income by getting money because the money which you save by not buying the seeds, you can do other activities for your own development. These local seeds are good with genetic, purely genetic, not modified. But when you eat the food from the local seeds, you maintain your health. Thank you so much. But also,
Thank you.
look like she wants to proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mama Lulu.
Okay.
You are a great teacher. You are very focused on the importance of agroecology. You've really said food security, health, think about the coming generation, issues of income security, environmental sustainability. You're very sure of what you're talking about. Thank you so much. But can you tell us at least two challenges that you see, that you face in practicing agroecological practices? What are the two major challenges that you face, which we can learn from you as we think about scaling up of agroecology? Mama Lulu.
Asante. Changamoto ya kwanza.
Thank you. The first challenge is a low level of education for the farmers, especially for the one who is beginning practicing the agroecology, because agroecology needs your energy, needs your mind to prepare the inputs, to prepare the farm, prepare the farm itself, prepare the fertilizer, up to the stage when you get the crop which you intended to grow. Most farmers, they don't have enough knowledge about the agroecology. So this is the big challenge, to educate them or to make them aware and accept or adopt the agroecology, because they see the conventional as fast-tracking farming practices and look like this is tedious. Another challenge is preparation of crop, especially when you are selecting the seed, because most farmers, they don't have a knowledge on seed selection and seed preparation. So this is to become a big challenge when you start agroecological farming, or cleaning your farms, put your surrounding environment to be clean, and even to avoid the chemicals products. So this, initially, it was difficult for me, even to educate my family members. It was not easy at all. It was very tough to me, but I managed to make it because I loved focus for agroecology, for the security of my family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mama Lulu, for being very open in terms of the challenges of even convincing your own family to adopt agroecological practices. We'll come back to you before we finish. I want us to go to our next panelist. And as we said, we'll be finishing at the hour. So we have got 27 minutes to go. And please hang on, because there are important questions and also issues that we need to deal with today, so that it's not just talk, but it's action. And for those who are leaving, we understand that you've been here for 90 minutes, but let's continue to engage and be part of the conversation. So our next panelist today is Madame Erica. Madame Erica works for Mkulima Mbunifu. She has been a program manager of Mkulima Mbunifu, and she is involved in sharing and disseminating agroecology information to farmers. So, Erica, when you go at the ground level and you meet farmers, you engage farmers through your newsletter, what are the major information areas that farmers are asking and saying want to learn more about these issues in agroecology? What are those areas which farmers are looking for information as regards agroecology? Erica, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. As I've been introduced, my name is Erica Rugabandana. I'm the project manager for Mkulima Mbunifu, which is under Sustainable Agriculture Tanzania. We are working in partnership with Biovision Africa Trust in Nairobi, where the project belongs, and a farmer communication program. So following to your question, MKM, actually, Mkulima Mbunifu, we are involved in producing Agroecology magazine, which is Mkulima Mbunifu. It's a magazine for farmers, and we are actually focusing on producing content or following 4H, which is on animal health, plant health, human health, and environmental health. And most of the content that we produce are actually the needs for the farmers. So as we go on the ground and we look at what is the season of the year, because Mkulima Mbunifu, it's a monthly magazine for this phase as we are ending up our phase. So in each month, we look at the need of the farmer for that respective month. And how we get this information is through that we normally engage with. We are distributing magazine to them. So they tend to call us and ask several questions. Example, it might be a question on how to to practice agroecology, like how to farm beans in a agroecological way, how to farm maize, how to do home kitchen. So as we get those kind of questions, we compile them and we create a content that goes according to the questions that farmers have asked. And we actually verify this information with our expert that we work with, like through MKM, we work with Sustainable Agriculture Tanzania. So we have people who actually look after the content that we have written from the farmers, but we also have some other partners from different institutions who also help us look through the content that we have written as far as the questions that has been asked by farmers. So most of the question that comes on the ground is how to practice, the named kind of crop, and we respond accordingly. But also there is a question about marketing. That has been a serious question that farmers have been asking. And as MKM, as a magazine for farmers, so we are trying to publish, especially those successful farmers, how they have come through, how they have been successful until they sell their crop. So through the magazine, we train them, we write in a way that they can learn how to choose the right crop for the right season and how to sell them. Because it's really a challenge to get the market. It's very, very challenging for them to get a market. So before they start, farming, they have to consider where they are going to sell, how they are going to sell, and how much should they produce so that they can sell. But we are also encouraging them through the magazine, like to sell within, to establish some groups whereby they'll be selling them within, and then that groups grow and register themselves as, organic group that they sell organic products. And then we write that in the magazine, and people approach them and they tell us how successful they have been. So briefly, that's what
Wonderful.
MKM. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Eric, for bringing up the issue of the major how, but also issues of markets. And this really relates to what other speakers have talked about, that it is about the whole food, but also even up to the consumer discussion today. I just want to bring in some key questions that have come in, and I want to
Tunakusikia.
Sorry, I was disconnected. Sorry, I am back. I don't know what happened. Okay, so we want to go to the key questions that are coming in. And the first question, I want to put it to Dr. Mwatima. Dr. Mwatima, there is a question here which says, can you clarify about agroecology, the differences and the similarities to agroforestry? Would you want just to tackle that question in a few seconds, Dr. Mwatima?
Oh, Rex, I'm a wrong person for that question. I think the right person for that question is Ludovic, because to me, I know that we have been bombarding ourselves. And there has been a lot of debate, and there are more than these words. There is an agroecology, there is regenerative, there is permaculture, there is all this. I still believe that what we need to look is the core issues about all these wording that are talked about. Within agroecology, they expanded a little bit more on the social part of it. And the origin of it was from the Via Campesino, the issues of rights of the people, and the right of the people come in with the issues of how do you manage your indigenous seeds and the like, how would you protect your biodiversity and the like. And that is how it spreads. For me personally, if you ask me, I would say that yes, we can call it agroecology, but only if it does not engage with the chemical. I have a war with these industrial chemicals, because some of this terminology, the chemical bit is hidden under this, and nobody talks about it. That don't use those chemicals. They are the ones which are destroying your soils. They are the ones that are causing all these issues on your animals. Don't use too much of these antibiotics. They are not good for this. These are hidden. So for me, I don't like the terminology that is not exposing that. But I'm good, and that is where we get to the compromise in Tanzania here to call it ecological organic agriculture. So you're doing agroecology.
Thank
you're
you
doing
so much.
ecological, organic agriculture. The basic principles are there. The fairness, the ecosystem supporting, the health of the people, the health of the soil in combination of it. So it's very important, like one of the questions says, exactly what do you want to scale up? People should know exactly what you want to scale up. That will give a little bit of indication of what is within the agroecology.
Hello, everyone. It looks like we've lost Rex temporarily, so we'll just wait for him to come back into the webinar. Thanks for your patience.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. In the interest of time and keeping things going, I'm going to continue with some of the questions that we've received in the Q&A until Rex is back. My name is Christian, and I'm the head of stakeholder engagement at Farm Radio International. I'm going to pose this next question to Catherine about some of the slides that you had presented. The question is there any strategy to sustain this project for the future? Catherine, over to you.
Thank you, Christian. Indeed, we are exploring sustaining the project, mainly through what I mentioned already, the use of radio resources, which we have distributed and will continue to engage our network of radio partners. But we also are looking at developing a more comprehensive concept which we can be able to use to see how we can work with different partners on different aspects so that we can continue on the work while we use more cost-effective methods of radio programming under that new framework. Yeah, so I think shortly that's what I can be able to respond to.
Wonderful. Thank you for that response, Catherine.
Thank you.
This next question is for Dr. Kessie. Dr. Kessie, somebody was asking a question if you could highlight what has been included in country position on post-2020 global biodiversity framework related to sustained food system, especially in scaling up agroecology as a means to protect and sustain our biodiversity. As they know, currently the Vice President office is finalizing country position ready to be presented in Montreal. Dr. Kessie, are you still there? You might be on mute.
Yes, hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Kessie.
Thank you very much. Just responding to the question on what has been included, though the work is still on progress. We have issues of upscaling land and water resources management. We have aspects of increasing productivity through sustainable ways, that is application of agroecology practices. We have the climate smart agriculture practices. Also, we are looking at the access mechanism for climate change, adaptation and mitigation. The fourth one, we have issues of research and development on technologies that can address the impacts of the climate change and the variabilities. And also we have the knowledge systems and extension services and the integration of the local knowledge in addressing the issues of the climate change. So those are a few areas that we are consolidating as the commitments. But when the document is finalized, then we can have more. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, that thorough response, Dr. Kessie. This next question can go out to any of our panelists who might be interested in weighing in. Someone from our audience was curious about what the policy environment would need to look like to better support agroecology and extension services that focus on agroecology. So what would the laws, the regulations, the policy need to look like to better support this type of work? And I'll open up to anybody who'd like to weigh in on that question.
I would like to add something into that one. Let me go back into a little bit of the situation that we are facing in our country. We are being squeezed to see that we have to say either we are ecologically organic or we are conventional. But this debate is not there in other countries. So all these years of advising modern agriculture is industrial agriculture, it also goes with a lot of rules and regulations that when we are going into organic, we need to do a little bit an adjustment so that to allow space for those that are operating within this ideology. I can give one example. Remember the time when we started with the warehouse receipt, and in the beginning it was a chaos for the cashew farmers who are registered organic, and they have an export market for organic cashew, and they succumb into all cashew has to go to the warehouse, and that is where, be organic or conventional, it will be bought. Is because the people who are managing those policy, they have no idea of what it is to be organic. So all areas of the policies that are happening, once we have this political will, political buy-in, it's very easy to look into it and to have a bit of an adjustment accordingly, so that those who moves into conventional have their space, and those who moves to the organic also have their space, but they don't push other aspect of the policy to undermine what is supposed to be an agroecological process. For there was all these regulations or rules or bylaws. You all have to plant this plant, and we don't want to see anything else. When you plant your maize, we don't want to see anything else. And we know that within the maize, if we have a few, or within the cotton, if we have a few sunflower, it will help in reducing infestation of the pest. We believe that diversity is a key also for reducing pest and disease infestation and keeping the plant and keeping the soil healthy. But within the conventional part, that space is not there. So it's a good question to go back to Dr. Casey. As I said, the support from the government, if we have that affirmative action, we will be able to look into all policies, not only the agriculture policy, the fisheries policy, the livestock policy, the health policy, the tropical pesticide policies, because all these are corners where some of these harmful poisonous stuff are coming in, and silently they are killing the ecosystem and the livelihood of the biodiversity that we have. We're happy that within the agriculture policy, there is a statement, and we are hoping once the strategy is out, and we're still looking for the support of the government to push the agenda for the strategy, agroecological organic strategy to be out. Those will be the first example. The same one should also go into other policies which are existing. If this can be help into the understanding of the policy environment. At the moment, is not conducive for agroecology or organic agriculture.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if I could also just give a little bit of an input that I think I agree with most of what Dr. Matima said. And I think one of the other key things that we do look at
Catherine is breaking off. Catherine is breaking out. We don't hear her properly.
As the policy.
I think we've got an internet outage in Malawi now.
Is also being able to have a bit more and building capacity to make sure that level and also
Catherine, we're not able to hear you anymore, so perhaps I can turn it over to Rex as he's back to wrap things up.
Okay, Christian, would you mute everybody so that we wrap up? Apologize for the internet outage that we had, but want to wrap up in these 30 seconds because our time is gone. I think the message is clear that agroecology is at the heartbeat of sustainable food systems. And in the same way, Green Revolution has been subsidized and supported, we need the same kind of investments and support towards agroecology. And having an enabling environment is very critical, hence the call to harmonize policies at the national level towards sustainable food systems. And indeed, let us not only look at the production efforts, but let's look at the whole food systems chain, because markets are important. And indeed, we also need to look at all the other players playing in the sustainable food systems chain. Beyond that, the issue of scale needs all of us. Partnerships will be very critical. Let's look at communication pathways, and let us all rally together to invest in agroecology. Thank you so much for making it. We shall share this recording with you and have a very good day. This is a beginning of a conversation. We can't end it now. We shall continue to engage with you as we go along. Thank you so much. Have a very great day. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.